record here in a moment. But part of your interview will also be put on our podcast. And we also have people that are listening in live. So some people may be asking questions. So thank you everybody for joining us that have joined us so far. And I know we will have quite a few more. So, all right.
Awesome.
Take it away, Sean.
Well, Heather, you have like such an amazing story, like your journey. You know, you started at $7.50 an hour back in 2009. You had zero experience. You had the lowest prices in your salon. And within 2 years from there, you managed to have like the fullest book in your salon. And 4 years from there, you were making $100,000. And that is a story that everybody always wants. Like everybody's like, I want that $100,000. And like you proved that you could do that within 4 years. And then you opened your own salon, which was only 200 square feet, which like you even said is probably, you know, your closets are bigger than that. Due to how fast you were growing, you moved to a 1,700 square foot building. And then your third year in business, you were doing over $800,000, which was way over the goal that you've set. And you're now in a 5,000 square foot building.
Yep.
That is for sure a journey. And you have your PIP University campus, which is inside of there, you know, so wow, you know, is all we can say. So how did you do it? Like, how did you go from that $750 to that $100,000 within 4 years? Because that's something that everybody always wants and always strives for. And you know, a lot of times it just doesn't happen, or they think it's going to happen overnight. I think that's the biggest thing. So kind of talk to us about that.
So really quick question first. For people that are listening or people that will be listening, is this primarily owners? I mean, I know it says salon leadership, or hairstylists.
Salon owners and salon leaders only.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, well, because that kind of shifts my answer a little bit. So for me, it's so important to know that to let everyone know that, Sean, when you say $100,000, for so long, PIP University, we run Facebook ads, we talk about six-figure hairstylists, and I have gotten just hate mail, bashed, bad, saying that I'm giving people unrealistic expectations. This is not possible for everyone. And I'm like, oh yeah, it is. Because I'm in Kentucky. That immediately should eliminate any limiting beliefs about geography. No one paid for anything. You know, I come from not a lot of money at all. So that really does say anybody can really do this. And for salon owners and leaders out there, I brought home $100,000 on a 42% commission structure. So I did over $250,000 in sales in my 4th year behind the chair. That is completely different than just saying 6 figures, because it's so important that owners and the people in the salons that support the owner, that they understand it is possible. And sometimes somebody else just saying that they did it gives you permission to believe that you can do the same. And me like saying that, it was so long ago, I had a phenomenal team. Like I have cold chills everywhere, because that number did not happen because I was great behind the chair and I was on my own and I was doing my thing. I never would have done that with just these 2 hands, ever. I probably would have done 90, 100 grand, because I was working 3 days a week. Now, sometimes I would come in on a 4th day, but like in your 4th year, I would have had to have been charging like $500 an hour to be able to hit something like that. I haven't done the math. That's just random. But my team, I had an amazing front desk team, amazing leadership that was just open to anything. And they would let me trial and error things. And I had an awesome team around me that when I was seeing multiple people or I was really busy, I mean, we had 6 hands on deck with my guests. So it's so important that is said. The other part of this, 2 parts, and then I'll stop in case anybody has any questions or you guys want to say anything. The next part is I'm just not afraid of failure at all. I actually really enjoy trying things and them not working out. The majority of my life, especially in the last couple of years with me really honing in on PIP University, has just been all failure. I mean, all failure. It's almost like it's very rare that I actually set a goal and I hit it, because the goals that I set are just so huge that I don't really hit them. But every time I don't hit them, I do not lose drive. I do not lose enthusiasm. I don't lose belief and hope. I learn, okay, well, why didn't that happen? And it's process of elimination, picking the outlier of what I need to switch that will help me make it. That's, I coach a lot of people, and I have my own salon team. We set high goals, and when we don't hit them, we are not sad about that at all. It just tells us what we need to do to hit them. So that would be the second thing. Just not being afraid of failure, not being afraid of trying something with a guest or attempting a different script because a guest just gets cut and you want to introduce them to color and cut for a higher ticket total because you know that they need color, or to introduce extensions. I would just try so many things and not really care, and that stuff affects revenue. So the third thing would be this, and this is pretty big. As owners, because it starts with the owner, your vision has to be so big that it even allows the possibility and for someone to dream that they could hit goals like that, that they could hit 250,000 and live in Kentucky where the average income per household is $50,000. If the owner does not dream and see on that level, the people will not rise to meet those expectations. And oftentimes, people don't realize that that's even a dream of theirs. It takes somebody else believing in them enough and casting a certain vision for people to be like, well, what if I could do that? Well, what if I could? Many salons, the owner can't even wrap their heads around what it takes to do that kind of money, because this is where pricing comes into play. This is just a really scary subject for a lot of people. And it's like, if you would just try it, a higher pricing with one of your best people, and it should be something that just makes you want to throw up. Mm-hmm. You'll be so surprised at what's on the other side of that if you just try it. Many people won't even try it, or they'll raise their prices $5 or $10 here, not taking into account the amount of time that it takes to actually do the service, because that is a huge thing. And with prices being lower, somebody would have to work like 6 days a week. And what kind of life is that, to not be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor? So I'll stop there. That was a mouthful, I know.
So good. I love the fact that you said that it was 250,000. So you kind of hit the nail on the head. It wasn't like, okay, she's a 6-figure hairstylist and not taking that home, right? And I love that you're talking to salon leaders and owners too, Heather, because I think it's really imperative, because I know all the people that are on this call right now, live with us right now, and then there's going to be many people listening to our podcast as well with you too, Heather. But what did it take for you to get to that place, first of all, and to get to this belief system? And I love the fact that you had right away, you started an academy within your salon. Like, you thought big right away. And I love that about you. But how did it take, like, what was the process to get there to that point? And talk to the salon owner and leader right now so they can borrow your belief.
Ooh, I love that. Borrow your belief. That's really cool. I would say, everything that happens in our lives for us, so much of that, the daily habits and behaviors, just comes from our past, the way that we were raised, the environment that we found ourselves in. And so often this is on a subconscious level. This is not necessarily a conscious thought that people have. So the things that you buy into, the things that you don't buy into, the things that really, really scare you, that is all something from the past that has empowered that belief or empowered you to not believe something. And so I remember, growing up, I had a great childhood. Going into high school and in college, I was so terrible with school. I mean, my mom would be like, baby, D equals diploma. I would get like B's and C's. I would get an A in PE, but B's and C's. And then my senior year, I got a D in math. And I remember it was just this span of like 6 years where it was like all of my outside circumstances were really saying, or I felt like they were saying, you're just not smart enough. All my friends were going to college. They were working at a level up here in their minds, 4.0s. And I just remember seriously, when I was 19 years old, I was in Walmart trying to get something, called my mom, and I needed $20 because I always needed $20. And my mom was like, I don't have it. I just don't have it. And that day in 2000, or it was in 2000, when was that? I think I said 2019. It was a long time ago. Or when I was 19. I said, this will never happen again. I will never, ever, ever be broke in my life, ever again. And it's so crazy. I have never been broke before that day at Walmart. It was like a breakdown of all kinds of sorts. And then was where the real work began. I had to start to develop new pathways in my brain. This might sound a little bit weird to some people, scientific woo-woo, but really I had to create new wiring and firing to where parts of my brain just decided to think differently, even though it had nothing to base it on. So I dove into personal development. I mean, I read so many books. I still do read a lot of books, listen to just so many things, did so much research, and I really just started to change my mind. And when I listen to other people achieve things, I'm like, there's money out there. And if you really think about it, everyone that's listening, there will be millions and millions and millions of dollars exchanged today over a phone call, through a wire transfer, through a register, millions. And to think that we have to struggle or be in a business that can't pay people really good money is just so not true. It's actually the exact opposite. So I studied, did so much personal development, listened to other people, and just decided to believe, because what could be the worst thing? Nothing would change. Well, then I would be right where I was now, but at least I got to learn something different and have the opportunity to believe that my life could be different.
Right.
Really good question. Because oftentimes I've been this way. I'll be 34 in March.
Oh
so
my
this was when I was 19. That was so long ago. Sometimes I don't take enough time to like really think about that stuff because it's such a way of life for me now. And there's so many people that need to hear that right there, because their thinking and the patterns in their thinking and behavior and what they believe they can do are far from where I'm at now, but I know exactly what it feels like. It takes just a second for me to come into awareness where I can snap back to where I was in Walmart that day and needed money, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. I've been working on actually rewiring my brain. I've been following Dr. Caroline Leaf's material, and she does a 21-day detox. And so it really starts with getting rid of those toxic behaviors, those toxic thoughts, those patterns, right? And really embracing, our pain and our mistakes and our failures to get us to where we want to go. And I think I'm on my 5th or my 6th right now, 21-day detox. And it really has made a huge shift, right, in my thought processes to help me to get through, especially last year, because there were some crazy things that happened, in our companies. And I love that you said that you get hate mail and you're not afraid of failure, because I believe these are kind of like pieces in our puzzle that we have to overcome, right? Rejection from people, right? And
Oh,
so
yeah.
let's talk about that, because most people fold underneath that pressure. Because I coach a lot of salon leaders. I have quite a few salon leaders in our companies as well, just like you do, Heather. And so let's kind of talk about the reality of this, because one leader I was talking to today, I said, I think you're going to have to journal what's causing you to not have direct conversations with your team members, because is it that you are afraid that they won't like you? Are you afraid that, that you won't please them? Like, what is it? You know, how can we work on rewiring your brain so that you can get to where you want to be? So how do you coach, and what does that look like for you?
Oh, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because when we want to hit this goal in our head that we want, like this certain way of life and what our business is able to produce and how it's being, how our business is being. Yeah, that's something that maybe people don't talk about this part enough, because most of it's all inspiring stuff. Oh my goodness. It requires you to go through tons of rejection. I mean, it really is a requirement, because every time, this sounds so cheesy, I know that, but every time you learn something from it. So I just got finished reading this book by, well, what's his name? I have it right here. Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics. And in it, it talks about this is such a different thing, but the only way to really respond to anything is through negative feedback. So it talks about a missile in the army that the military sends off. It's got a calculation exactly where the missile is supposed to go. As the missile's going through the water, it only responds from like its rudder, negative feedback that says, oh, you're a little off course. So then it changes course. When it's good and it's on track to hit its calculated destination, when there's no negative feedback that hits the rudder, it does nothing. It just keeps going because it's on its way. But it responds to the negative feedback because that negative feedback tells it what it's doing wrong, so it gets back on track. That was such a different, I've like learned all about feedback. That was such a different way of explaining it. When I look at, again, a lot of salon owners, it's like pricing scares them, and so does having the tough conversations. The way that I look at it is the thing that's always helped me. Now I don't really need it anymore because they're comfortable for me. I actually really look forward to having the difficult conversations. But what helped me was I cared about that person enough.
Yeah.
When you don't do it, what you're really saying, the energy that you're really putting out there is, I care more about me being comfortable than I do about helping this person grow, no matter how difficult this is going to be. Because there's some difficult people in the salon, okay? I get it. That's what we signed up for. And no one told us that when we started to bring employees on. Booth rental, totally different. But when you sign up to bring people in your charge and they are a W-2'd employee, a part of a culture, you also sign up to care about them enough to raise them to the standard of your vision that should be their vision. And every time those conversations have to happen, it's so easy. Your brain will look for evidence as to why you don't need to do it. Hopefully this just blows over. I just want to ignore it, all that stuff. When we do that, though, we are creating an unsafe space for all the people that really do show up at our standard. It's not fair to them. That's the other thing. Love that person enough. And if that's real hard for you to do at the moment, love the other people in the salon enough that that person has to rise to the occasion. And there's sometimes in my walls in my salon, we have this huge education space. It's like 1,000 square feet. We've got quotes on the wall. And one of the quotes says, sometimes the fear doesn't go away and you're going to have to do it scared.
Yeah.
The amount of tough conversations that you're going to have to do when you feel like you're not ready and you are so scared, your voice is shaking when you start the meeting and you've got a pit in your stomach. You have to, at that point, it's just about doing it. A good friend of mine said, you know, when something needs to be done, when you pull into your salon and you see someone's car and you get sick to your stomach, that's how you know that you need to take action.
That's good.
Yeah, it really, really is, because it's true.
Yep, it's true. Yep, you got to have that conversation. You can't keep avoiding it. It's just going to make it worse. It's going to affect everybody on your team. One thing that I really love, I have so many questions for you, of course. Everyone's saying they love that way that you explain feedback. And I've been working really hard on becoming a feedback champion, and so just saying I'm a feedback champion and just really searching for it. And our leaders are working harder at getting feedback from their team, which I'm so proud of them that they're starting to, search it out. And now I'm holding them accountable and sitting down with them. Okay, what kind of feedback did you get this week? I'll sit down with my future professionals because they'll say, hey, will you coach me? And this is how I get them to get coached is I'll have them go to all the learning leaders in our school, Heather, and just say, hey, how am I doing? How could I do better? And I can tell you, I can count on one hand of people who followed through because they're too afraid to get feedback because people are not feedback champions. They don't want to hear how much they suck. So let's embrace the suck. Let's talk about that for a moment. Talk to the leader right now. How can they get better feedback? Because that's the biggest challenge as a leader is, you and I both know this, is the blind spots that we have. And how about the blind spots that we don't even know that we have, that we're not even searching out? Others like, yes.
Yeah. And you're saying, how can, as a leader or salon owner, how can you get your team to give you feedback?
Yes, because I feel like there's not a lot of safety out there for their leaders. People are too afraid to give their leader feedback because of maybe repercussions or maybe thinking, oh man, if I tell her or him this, he's going to treat me differently,
Yep.
They've watched it. They've witnessed you doing that about feedback in the past.
Yeah. So there was a podcast that I listened to probably 3 years ago. I believe it was in either 2017 or 2018. It's called Hard Talks Made Easy. And oh my gosh, every word that this guy says, he's from Entree Leadership, I think.
Yeah, so good.
Oh my God, I literally became so obsessed with it. I typed out the entire podcast word for word in a Google Doc. That's how obsessive I am. And he said, and this goes both ways, when you're trying to get feedback from your people and when you're trying to give it, it is never, ever, ever the topic or what you are discussing. So if you think somebody's stealing and you have to approach them, or somebody needs to wear more deodorant or their dress code, the topic isn't what really creates the safety. It's the trust between the two people that allows for a safe space. So he calls it safety. He calls it psychological safety. And how you give someone psychological safety is creating a safe space between you and that person where there is a relationship there. That's why I feel like it's so important for owners and leaders, especially salon leaders, the owner also, but definitely salon leaders that are working amongst their peers, to be friendly with them. And yes, you can totally be friends with your team, obviously not crossing certain boundaries, but be friendly with them, have great, deep relationships with them that will only, the trust that happens there to where anything can be said. I mean, really, it's miraculous. It's crazy. With me, because I got some people. So I have PIP University and my salon, Neatbeat. I have directors in my salon and I have a leadership team in PIP University. So I have several people, about 10 people that give me feedback. Now sometimes in the past, it could be hard for them to give me feedback. Like if we would have a one-on-one, at the end of all of our one-on-ones, the person that facilitates them says, do you have anything for me? Do you have any feedback for me? Well, when you word it that way, your answer the majority of the time is going to be no.
No.
Now, some people are just awesome and they write it down and they have feedback every time, which is great. So the way that you could word that to really get that is, I need one thing that you've noticed or that you think is causing us to not be at a certain standard. One thing that I need to shift a little bit, that I could try out and make a little bit better. Sometimes the word feedback just scares people, especially when you're talking about them giving it to you. Mm-hmm. So if you just word it, number one, ask for a specific yes or no, close-ended question, not going to work. Mm-hmm. If you're saying, what's one thing that you've noticed or that I could try a little bit different or shift, that seems like it's broken, whether it's with the way that I lead, how I, run the salons in the morning, how I'm communicating through Slack, whatever it is, then they'll have to give you an answer. If they say, let me think about this, then you just start creating culture where they thought about that a couple days before a meeting, and then they have it ready. That really works.
Wow.
The other thing that I think is important to talk about is when people do start giving you feedback, some of it's going to stink because it's just your personality of how you're doing things and the behaviors and the habits that you've created over your life, which can all be changed. And so a very important thing is to just take it all in, be very, very curious, and obviously not defensive, but it's like whatever they say, it's just like respond with, okay, that's good. That's good. And then write it down, especially if it's someone that's, is scared to give you feedback. You're creating that safety to invite them more. Now, I will say this. I've got like 4 people that I am so close with. We really are best friends. We give each other the most consistent and the harshest feedback. Harshest meaning, honestly, it's kind because it's extremely clear. And there's times where we'll go back and forth, me and these people. So when they give me feedback or I give them feedback, we agree one of our core values is I enter the arena naked. So with those people, they know that if you're going to give me feedback, and I know that if I'm going to give them feedback, we're getting ready to enter in an arena, and I need them to stay in the arena with me, and I need to stay in the arena with them. Meaning, they say something to me, I come back, I ask a lot of questions. I'm very focused. I'm very stern in my communication. It could seem like I'm getting defensive. Maybe sometimes I even am getting defensive, but I need them to stay in the arena with me so I can understand. And man, these relationships are awesome because they stay in those conversations with me and they don't shut down. They don't just agree with me because I'm the owner. They don't just say, okay, I understand. Because then I'll be like, nope, get back in. That's not fair for me to do that. And it's not fair for you to bow out. There's a lot of owners out there that they don't get feedback at all. And so in the event that they do get feedback from somebody that's really close to them in the salon, we're talking like high level leader, the first thing is that primitive brain's going to want to respond with some defense or some questions. That's when it's just super important to bring that other person into awareness. When I respond in this way, stay with me, because it's only going to make me better. I think that's really important because I have taught so many salon owners, but then I have taught their teams when the salon owner isn't present. And that has been a very common thread of the owner consistently says, oh, I love feedback. I want to listen to them. But then their team has something completely different to say. It's important there's that understanding.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so powerful. I don't think we've gotten this deep with a lot of the salon leaders, and I'm so glad let's stay in this arena. And I know this is all Brene Brown stuff, which is fabulous. So if you haven't heard of this, definitely read her book, Dare to Lead, and all of her books as well too. Heather, I love the fact that you're talking about your core values and you consistently talk about culture. And I know this about you because with your companies, all of your systems are written down and your systems are fun. Like you have fun words. I want to stay in this for a second because talk to the salon owner or leader right now. In fact, I'm coaching a couple of them right now and they're like, oh man, I don't have anything in writing, Tina. Like I have a salon manual that I need to dust off. That was written like 80 years ago and I need to dust it off and restart. And but you're like me, like we have living, breathing systems that we're always looking at and you never have to dust them off because you're constantly changing them and tweaking them and shifting them. And how does someone even get started? Let's say they need to start it. Let's say they need to grow it, right? So what should they do? What kind of shifts do they need to make in order to build that culture?
Couple things. First thing I want to start with is my dear friend Brian Nunes. He owns an amazing salon in North Carolina, and he always says, culture, profit comes from your culture, and your culture comes from your profit. So pretty much like your culture is the bottom line, and that determines what your profit is. Now, many people don't understand the correlations in that.
Yeah.
So in PIP University, the first thing that we teach, the first thing is core values and salon guidelines. Now that sure in the hell is not what any salon owner wants to learn. Okay.
Right.
They all of them want to know how to hire and find more people, how to find more guests,
right,
and a training program. These are the three things. And in our program, we don't teach that at all, because I'm like, if you don't have this stuff down, you're not going to keep the employees. You're not going to retain the guests. When you bring people into your company, if these systems and this culture that everyone is bought into, if that is not clear for every single person to where they can say it immediately and know, it's hard for them to stay. It's hard for money to be made. And gosh, that's something I really, really want people to hear, because I know it doesn't sound like fun. I know it doesn't seem like core values and culture and salon guidelines, which is employee handbook. I know that doesn't seem like it doesn't directly turn into money, but it does. Yeah. And if you don't have that stuff, your bank account will reflect it.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is having core values and salon guidelines. First place to start. Like before you go to set out your next goal for the new year, figure out how do we get more guests in, or you're on a roll with hiring, stop. That's a bold statement too, because a lot of people are going to listen to this and I don't know what's going on in their companies, but stop, because this is that important. Core values. Many people talk about it, but I never really knew like how to make them become a part of my company. I took a year-long training program. People outside of the industry. It was $100,000. The only reason I say that is because I want people to know the level of investment that I want to invest in my people and myself, so we can be on this vision. $100,000 in 12 months. And I did not have $100,000. I used like 4 credit cards to make my initial payment. So they taught how to operationalize core values. Most brilliant thing ever. We had some core values. Nobody knew what they were. I didn't know, like, how do you bring them in? How do you talk about them? Mm-hmm. So our core values are: I wash feet. This means we are servants to each other and our guests. I take ownership. I enter the arena naked, and I choose courage over comfort. You can ask any of our team, what are our 4 core values, and they'll recite them.
Yeah.
This is the biggest thing. We hire, fire, praise, and give feedback only based around core values. So let's say somebody has a $27.50 guest average retail dollar. We'll congratulate them. Like in Slack, we'll send a post to the whole team and we relate it to a core value. Way to take ownership, and we italicize the core value. If somebody stays after and does cleaning for somebody else because that person's running behind, so-and-so did this, way to wash feet. It's always about a core value. Under each core value, there's 5 behaviors of because what in the world does I wash feet mean?
Yeah.
What in the world does I enter the arena naked mean? So then there's behaviors of what that looks like in the salon on a day-to-day when someone is in alignment with it, and what does it look like when someone is not in alignment with it? That way, when something, oh gosh, guys, this is all tying in. When someone is not in alignment with it, you can easily see that they're not choosing courage over comfort because they decided to go in the break room and talk about a problem before they actually went to the source. That would be a behavior under I choose courage over comfort. You can have a conversation with that person, and it's really not that hard because it's about the core value that they agreed to. And if you do this with an existing team, they help come up with the core values. So they've bought into it. at that point, it kind of takes the emotion out, because it's like, but this is our core value, and it doesn't make it so personal. So that is why core values are so amazing. You can hire people, you can let people go, you praise people, you give feedback, all based around core values. They literally are the North Star of the company.
Yeah.
If you go to salon guidelines, we call them salon guidelines or salon standards. This is just something that, this is the biggest thing that people, our students, are afraid to implement, is the salon guidelines, because we make sure that they at least have 7 things. And that looks like, what does dress code look like, with pictures of what it looks like to be in alignment, and pictures of what it looks like when you're not in alignment.
Wow. Good.
Because that's good. Because what does any of that stuff mean? If people have examples, that's great. And you can coach to those things of what it looks like on the topic of moonlighting. So doing services under your own name outside of the salon. What time is early? What time is on time? What time do we get to the salon? So there's these certain things that we make sure that people have, because one of our professors just said this the best. Salon guidelines are truly what even enables someone to hit their goals. Because when they are being held accountable to certain salon guidelines, it is inevitable that only good is going to come out of that in the end. Now, there's going to be some rough waters, some tough conversations to get people back on track. But here's the thing about salon guidelines. We revamp them like every quarter when something happens. So for the longest time, we offer wedding services. For the first 6 years we were in business, I didn't need to put anything in my salon guidelines about doing wedding services under your own name, because our whole team knew. But when we started bringing a lot more people on, I knew that we had an issue when one of my girls was in her monthly individual, and she was like, so I need a request off for a couple of Saturdays from now because I have a wedding that I'm doing. So how do I do that? And I was like, she didn't even know. And it's like, she didn't know because it's not clear. And we needed to make that clear and go in and say, okay, what's good for us? What's good for the team as a whole? So then we put that in there. So many people look at salon guidelines like they keep putting it off because they don't know what to put in them.
Right.
Put in there the things that you do know. And then every time something happens, like somebody saying they're going to take off on a Saturday when they're working to go do wedding hair, that's probably something that needs to go in there. And then you just constantly update it.
Yeah. I love that you said you constantly update it. That means you're always looking at it. And I love, I'm the same way. We coach to our guidelines. And are we perfect? No. I mean, we need to constantly be looking back at these, and in our salon leader meetings, we're constantly looking back at them, but we need to do it even more, in our schools too, Heather. So I love that you're bringing this up. But something I want to hit home on, because you said earlier, and I wrote it down, I caught it, and I love that you said this, W-2 employees. And we're the same way. We only coach. And I love that you threw in W-2, because people don't understand. They're calling, independent contractors employees. They give them a 1099. If you're giving a 1099, you have an independent contractor on your hands. Okay. That's like me hiring a plumber to come into my school or my salon. And so if they want to work at 80 different places, guess what? They can, because they're an independent contractor. So let's talk about this, because I think this is a rampant issue in our entire country. I don't think it is anymore in California, mind you, right? And then there's other states as well that are frowning upon it as well. But let's talk about the difference and what that is, because some of the owners may be sitting here thinking, oh, I pay with 1099 with my employees so I can give them higher commission, right? So they're not really employees. What's the difference? What's the difference between W-2 and 1099?
Well, other than the legalities behind it, I mean, there's some stuff that I hope really changes, because it's so expensive for a salon owner to do this the legal way.
It is.
My payroll taxes that I pay are crazy and we're paying on tips.
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
why people don't want to do it. And I totally get why. I totally understand. But that only hurts our industry. And I really care about that. Like, I want to do my own contribution.
Right.
And I want to make sure that I'm teaching people the right way. And if I'm doing that, that I'm backing it up with my own company. But I will be honest, even more than that, if I look at it like, and I know that I really do want employees, I don't want people coming and go. Oh, that's another thing in the salon guidelines, coming and going when you don't have people on your books. If you work 9 to 5, you're in that salon at 8:30 and you don't leave before 5, even if you only have one person. If I'm doing that, they have to be an employee legally. Now, I'm not speaking for every state, but many states, it's illegal to tell them that they have to do these things when they're just a 1099. So because of the culture that I want, and because of the revenue that I want to produce and the type of money that I want my people making, I know that I have to have them be W-2s. So in order to do that, that means I have to pay. And so I can do it. We changed our whole salon over to hourly. So our team is paid hourly. And for us to be able to do that, it took me. I've never really been afraid of pricing because I got that worked out in my younger years. Those first 4 years, like, I just knew, like, okay, I have to charge. But this last pricing shift that we went to charging hourly, like charging, it's not really hourly, charging based on time, where there's a consistent 15-minute rate. So we pay hourly our people, and then we charge consistently on the 15-minute rate. Now that one, I had to run some thought work on paper because that one scared me as far as pricing. If you want to be able to pay your people a solid percentage, that is not over 45%, I will say that. Some cases people do like 46 or 47 for certain, like the highest tier or whatever. That's fine. If you want to be able to pay them that and have them make really good money, charge more. Charge more. When you charge more, they get their portion. You get your portion. You are able to run the company really, really well because what's left over is enough because you're charging enough. Tina, I truly do not know how salons do it. A salon is so damn expensive to run. It's like, who came up with this model? Seriously, who literally came up with all this that the rest of us just followed? I'm like, somebody literally had to have created this in their kitchen, and then all of us just decided to do the same thing because this is not okay. It's honestly heartbreaking because it's one of the toughest jobs there is. And if you're also not being financially fulfilled, I get why salons close all the time, or the owners are just running themselves ragged, working 6 days a week. And it's like, that is not a smart business model, and it will set no one up for success. Have employees, pay your taxes. The other reason for that was I didn't want to be in a position where I was like, I'm not going to do that, because for me, it felt like that was how do I say this? I can't come up with the word, so I'm going to say the word I was originally thinking. Broke. I know that sounds bad.
Yeah.
That's a broke mindset, and I don't want that. So it's like, let me have these 1099s. I don't want to pay taxes, and I want to be able to pay them more. Well, then do what's legally right, because that energy will create more streams of revenue, better ideas. I don't want to do anything that would be breaking a rule or a law just because I'm going to save a little bit of money if it's possible. I want to be able to do it the right way and have a financially abundant mindset all around it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And, that we decided right from the get-go that we were going to run things right, and I think too many salon owners are listening to their CPAs who think their CPAs is an HR director. No, they're not. Their CPAs are not, the Department of Labor, right? And so you have to have all these different people in your pocket. Like you said, it costs a lot of money, and stop believing Uncle Joe, who's a lawyer, that, I can say this because my husband's a lawyer, to stop believing Uncle Joe, because Uncle Joe probably isn't right. Like, follow the laws, and God will bless that. I truly believe that. And I've watched so many salon owners flourish because they do things the right way. They do it morally and ethically correct, and they, follow the law. And besides, you're protecting your employees. If you really do love them, you would do this for them, because
oh gosh, that's a whole other, they're able to buy. I mean, my girls, they're breadwinners of their family. Oh, and nothing makes me more proud to know they buy houses, they buy brand new cars, and they're able to do that because their credit is great and they've got great income on their W-2s. I care about that. I care about that so, so, so much. And there's some times where, especially when you start creating some guidelines for the amount of hours that somebody has to work, because it's not a normal thing. My salon got to this. I was like, we've got to have some boundaries here, with some people wanting to work like 6 hours a week, 10 hours a week, because they just had a baby and now they've got 2 babies at home. Mm-hmm. I want to figure out a way to make this work for everyone, but we also have to do what's best for the company as a whole. And honestly, when those things are set in stone and those boundaries are made very clear, and you say no to people, they end up being able to hit their dreams. That is what is so important about a salon owner. So many people, I'm totally out of this mindset now, but there for a hot second, it got in my head a little bit, because there was some influencers, leaders in the industry that I really respected, that were starting to talk more about like booth rent. Like, they're like, I just can't make it work. I'm so sick of people leaving and it just being bad blood. So just everybody's going booth rent. And I remember being like, hell no, absolutely not. My people need the accountability, not really that I bring anymore, because I'm in my salon. I live in Texas now. My salon's in Kentucky.
Oh, nice.
I'm in my salon. I spend hours like through Slack and messaging and stuff, and I set up systems and things they experience in 6 months. But my CEO, my GM, the directors, they run the show. My team needs those people and me to be able to hit goals, so they're able to live the life that they want to live. That's what accountability is all about. That's what support and growth is all about. And that's hard to do when you are on your own. You just won't make yourself do certain things, like having a team around you. Same thing with me. Just because I'm the owner, if I did not have 50 people relying on me on my teams, I would not do half the stuff I do.
Right.
I would want to go, do a hobby, get on my sewing machine, go work in my garage. But because people rely on me and they hold me accountable is why I'm able to produce so much. It's the same thing for them.
Yeah, people need people. Like,
yes,
I heard a really great message. I think it was Stephen Moody. He said that, as a hairdresser, you need to be more of a football team than a golfer. And I said, oh my gosh, I love sports analogies. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to use it all the time, because if you really want to be successful, you have to be like a football team. And I know you think the same way, Heather. And Sean's going to end this out with some questions for you as well too. But I just wanted to personally thank you for being on. It's been so long since we've been able to have you. And I really wanted to know what you were doing too nowadays, because I hadn't heard from you in such a long time as well too. And I want to make sure everyone gets your contact information so they can hire you for their coaching as well too, because I know you're absolutely incredible. So thanks for being on.
Thank you. So fun. This was great.
So we kind of touched base on it just a little bit, but I'd love to kind of end the call with what PIP University is, what you can offer for them, how they can find you, how they can join. And I love that you talked about failure in the beginning, and one of your core values of PIP University is face planting.
Yeah.
I remember hearing you talk about that, and I just thought that was so interesting when you were here in Farmington Hills, and you were like, you just face plant, it's fine, you do it over and over again. And I just love that. So I'd really love to just kind of give you some time to talk about PIP University and how they can join and be a part of it.
So we are on Instagram and Facebook, just PIP University. PIP stands for Positively Impacting People. And it's funny because 100% is my purpose in life. And when I was given, I say that with quotes, PIP University, it's funny because I was getting ready to go through my second price increase of the year. Well, the salon that I came from, we did 20% price increases, which is a lot the more expensive you get. So this is my second 20% price increase for the year because I had too many guests. I could not take care of them. Had like a 12-week waiting list. So then supply and supply and demand, you charge more. Well, this is the first price increase I was ever nervous about. This was the end of my third year. And I went out to send a message to Harry Wood, who's at Van Michael in Atlanta, asking him for some support. This is way too long. I deleted the whole thing. I sat there in stillness and I literally was like, what am I doing? What am I here for? And then right then, nothing has ever happened to me like this. The words positively impacting people came to me and out of my mouth. I said them out loud. It was like the greatest gift that God could ever give me. I did not know what that was, but I just ran with it. That was June 9th of 2011. And I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And eventually we built what's PIP University today, which is an online education company for hairstylists and salon owners. Now, we have 2 Facebook groups. We have our Instagram page and our Facebook page. We have 2 programs. One is for owners and 2 of their most trusted people on their team. So we don't allow owners to go through our program alone because implementation is way hard. And we want to lead those 2 people. We want to show the owner, this is what it looks like to lead. You're going to watch us lead you, but you're going to also watch us lead your people. And then these people are going to help you lead the team. So not everything is on you. That's such a big problem for salon owners. We've got to have them start developing a leadership team. So the owner and 2 people that they trust. And then for hairstylists, it's just hairstylists. Now, right now, the owner's program is 4 months. It's getting ready to be extended to a full year. Now, this thing is not like any other thing. It is, we go in and we basically act as the management to you and your management. So salon guidelines, core values, the team knowing all of it, a pricing structure based on time so we can make sure you're profitable. We look at all of your P&Ls. We get in your salon software. We launch new communication systems. I mean, there is nothing that we do not cover and that is not implemented in the business when you're finished. So that's the big thing is this isn't something you just log online. That really mattered to me. I don't want to sell anything that people just log on to and they take lessons, bunch of passive action without massive action. I want to see a meeting happen where your people learn your core values. I'm going to get in your salon. We get in their salon softwares 3 times a week. I want to see that these new prices are in there and I want to see guests checking out with these new prices. That took a lot of courage because nobody's doing this, but I'm like, then I'm not going to sell anything because I want them to act on this, not just learn. It's the same thing with Rich Life Hairstylists. So the programs are a beast. They are hard. There are a lot of tears. It's fun at the beginning and it's real fun at the end. The middle, it's transformation, and transformation never feels good.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, again, Heather, thank you so much for taking some time and sharing your knowledge, like always, in everything that you're doing for the beauty industry.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I loved this. Such great conversation. I hope people really get a lot out of it and they can take some actions like their core values and salon guidelines.
Yes, they will. Heather, you're amazing. Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.